How can you improve empathy and respect in your relationship for your children's sake? And what lessons from your parents' relationship do you want to carry forward into your own family? My guest, Don Welch, is back, and he's going to be talking about this and more coming this way. You know, we love that a father's influence on a son is so important throughout his life because it steers his direction,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so now a husband and wife, how they interact with each other is very, very important, and that affects children. Can you speak into that a little bit?
Yes, I'll never forget. I think it was Dr. James Dobson. We can give this heroic statement to him. Is that I remember reading one time that he said the greatest gift you can give to your children or a child is how you treat their mother. And so when you treat their mother with respect and kindness and gentleness, in fact, I say in marriage that the idea of key, Key, an acronym for K would be kindness, E would be the empathy. This is Key, and E is empathy, and then the Y is yielding. The key to a happy marriage is usually extending those grace-filled moments with the mother. I still remember at one point in our marriage with our children, they're now launched, young adults, and at one point something was being said to my wife, their mother, of course, and I said, "Do you see me treating your mother like I'm hearing you treat her at this moment?" And not that I'm perfect, I'm not trying to say that at all. But my wife and I work on really treating each other with great respect. And it silenced that moment. And it caused, hopefully, an existential moment where that child, who is now an adult, realizes that I respect my wife. She is my wife, just as Christ calls us the bride, and the idea it's their mother, but nonetheless, that exempling that, I'm using that word again, is showing how to express kindness, empathy, and yielding, the key to, I think, a happy marriage, Key, kindness, empathy, and yielding. That helps. Now, if I can give example of the opposite of this, which is unfortunate, but we see in all states within the United States that if a couple is divorcing and they have children, the number one statement they make from the law is that you will not denigrate the other parent. That is true because there's been research on children, Nancy, that shows if you denigrate the other parent, then what you do is you bifurcate, you split. You split the child in half because the child loves both parents, usually if they're good people. Now, if they've been mean and cruel, the love would be tattered and hurt and torn even. However, in this case, a child will always love both parents. And if one parent is treating the other parent with disdain and despairing comments, it bifurcates the child. That's why the child will often say to themselves, him or herself, I must be the problem. That's why they're divorcing. And yet it's an adult problem, not the child. So that's the opposite of what I was just saying about showing that great respect and treating the other uh, parent with empathy, because empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. It's compassion and understanding, but sympathy. So I'm talking about empathy here, not sympathy. Sympathy is feelings of pity and sorrow for someone else's misfortune. So we really do want empathy fully aligned with all of our relationships, particularly with a father and son, because that's our focus here, I believe that you're saying. So that's really, really important. In fact, when we think of this, I'm reminded of the blockbuster book, Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, that he used in his fifth command, he used St. Francis of Assisi's prayer. To be understood is to understand. That's just a wide quote about it. And the prayer goes like this: Lord, make me an instrument of peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. And he was saying that the idea was that we look first how to understand another person. So the greatest gift, as Dr. Dobson once said, we was the best gift you can give to your children is how you treat their parent. In this
Mm.
case, their mother, um, as I was illustrating that, or trying to at least, just a few moments ago, and showing that that love and compassion, that empathy for the other parent, which is
Mhm.
so important.
So I'm going to throw a little wrench in here and ask, what about the respect level? So now one parent is talking about the other parent to the child. What kind of effect could that have on a child?
That that they're showing respect to each other or disrespect.
Like disrespect.
Okay, disrespect. What happens to the child, depending upon where they are developmentally, that because in the fifth commandment, we all know this in Exodus 20, when we look at the fifth commandment, um, that it says, of course, it says, honor your father and mother, and you'll have long life. That's just a little statement about that. And Proverbs 22, verse 6, train up a child in the way he should go. The concept that keeps the child stable. So when we break that fifth commandment, which is the only one, by the way, we all, I think, know this, or many of us do, that it's the only one of the 10 commandments that states there's a promise with it. So the promise with honoring father and mother is long life. We see that because we have less anxiety. But if we have disregard for a parent, then we actually disregard ourselves. The self-esteem, which has been a long researched piece of health, is is now being looked at in a little different way than it was for the last 20 years. But the nonetheless, that idea of respect for self, it goes back to the great command when Jesus was asked, we know you know about the Decalogue, we know you know about Moses' law, but what's the big deal? They were trying to corner Jesus, of course, we know, Nancy, but at that point, he gently said, well, then love your neighbor as you love yourself. And so the way we learn how to love self is really how our parents treat each other. The executive system in any family is the most important system. And that's where everything is downloaded into those below. That's the children, of course. So if there's disrespect, number one, the child will begin to disrespect himself or herself and others. And that's where we have oftentimes children that are acting out in behaviors. They have too much anxiety because anxiety is anticipatory in nature. It's not predictable parenting, as I suggested earlier. But now it's inconsistent parenting, and that can lead to real trouble.
Mhm.
So when we experience this disrespect, we disrespect self and then we disrespect others.
With everything that you spoke about, my last and final question to you is, how does this affect children in choosing their own spouses when they're in the influence of a parent or a father? How does it affect them?
It in fact affects them significantly. This goes back to a little bit of 1968 when Dr. Bowlby developed what is called attachment theory. Dr. Mary Ainsworth developed it in 69 and forward. And now we have emotionally focused therapy. Dr. Sue Johnson has developed that and others pioneering this area. And the concept that happens is that likely the child, and I'm basing what I'm sharing on Dr. Murray Bowen, very famous clinician, medical doctor who's done significant research, and there's a whole line of thinking here. What happens if the child does not connect well with the parent or parents? It decreases their health in choosing a mate or a spouse significantly. I had the university students for 30 years at the university. My students would ask, hey, Prof, how do I find the right person? Which is a great question. And not that this is way too simple, but I would suggest to them be the right person. And let me base it in this concept. Being the right person means, am I, we call it differentiated from my family of origin or undifferentiated. If I can use those words, differentiated from my family of origin, it means that I can separate my feelings and thoughts from my family of origin. So they've allowed me to have a voice. So there's four types of parenting, if I can answer it this way. When we think of parenting, there's authoritarian, my way or the highway. That creates pensive children. Authoritative, which is the best form, that means that we have reciprocity between the children and the parents. There's then permissive parenting, that is allowing children to do what they like or want. And then there's dismissive, we just abandon them. So when we're in authoritative parenting, it creates children who think carefully. Dr. Foster Cline developed a whole line of love and logic. We've seen this in school districts, where part of the research and tools encourage the child to have a voice and choice. And the more we can do that in parenting, allowing our children to have a voice or choice, the more they'll likely do that in a marriage. And that's what creates this reciprocity. So what happens is people who are differentiated, in other words, my parents have been authoritative in allowing me to have a voice and choice, and I have a voice in the family rather than authoritarian. It causes me to be pensive, that I'm likely to actually be attracted to someone who is also differentiated. Now, if they are undifferentiated, and I won't go in a long statement here, but just if I can say this, undifferentiated means that they can't decide if it's the other person's feelings or my feelings. And what happens there is then the person will likely find someone or be attracted to someone who also has that low level of self, we call it. The self-esteem, the ego mass strength, and then we'll tend to triangulate in relationships. We'll do a lot of cut off relationships. This is so devastating. So this whole line of thinking is that we want to be able to have a voice and choice in relationship growing up. That's why parenting is so, so important. We try doing this with our children. And I think of our little daughter, Savannah. She's now a broadcaster in Portland, Oregon, and doing her second master's. And she's really, really doing well. As a little girl, we try, and our son, Daniel, but this story is of Savannah. Just real quickly, we were trying to help her to differentiate her feelings from ours. So I said, honey, you have a blue dress and a yellow dress to wear to church today. We were back in Kansas where it was a little more formal and we were getting ready for church. And I said, which dress would you like? She's about 6. And she said, oh, Daddy, which one do you like? That would be a normal response from a child at that age. And I said, honey, I like one of them, but I'll give you, can I give you that answer after you decide? She looked up and said, and looked out the window. It was blue. And she had a blue dress. She said, blue sky, I like blue dress. And then the important piece that we were trying to instill is to say, well, that sounds like Savannah is making a good decision, right? Or we asked her, well, hey, do you think you made a good decision? And that reinforced it before I would say it sounds like Savannah made a good decision. So that's that differentiation, which I think is so important because unfortunately, we see a lot of people that they'll tend to attract a spouse at the same level that they are differentiated from their own family of origin. It doesn't mean they're moving away from them. Actually, they'll have a closer relationship. They'll move into the next season after they're launched as young adults into a friendship with their family if they have a level of differentiation. So your feelings are yours, Dad, and my feelings are mine. Can you respect that? Yes, I'm hearing your feelings. You feel this way about this topic, and then what are your thoughts about that? So there's this reciprocity. That's authoritative parenting.
I'm telling you, I'm learning more from you than I can even hope for. I love it. So I'm so glad that you're here. And just so everybody knows, The Responsive Marriage is available on Amazon. And if you want to know more about Don and what he's doing, because he's got a conference coming up very soon. And if you're in the California area, Don, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for Nancy for sharing the book. The Responsive Marriage with my last name Welch, Welch. It is on Amazon.com. And it actually has tools for a local church ministry and where you would have 30 professional videos, assessment tool that measures your involuntary reactions, a handbook, and now this book and a 50-page analysis on the results for you. But we are doing a conference. Thank you for that. That is going to be May 17 and 18 here in San Diego. And you can actually go to our website and find out more information. That's just welchtherapyinstitute.com. Welch is like Welch's grape juice with a C. So Welch, W-E-L-C-H, welchtherapyinstitute.com. So thank you, Nancy, for allowing us to share a little bit about that coming up on May 17 and 18. If you're in San Diego, it's a Friday night and Saturday until 3.
Wonderful. And what would you like to leave my audience with today?
Parenting is so important, and it isn't wonderful that we have a father who loves us. What great love was this, that he, Jesus, God himself, would lay down his life for us so that we might have abundant life here on earth and eternal life with him forever. So thanks be to God for the wonderful Father that we have in and through Jesus Christ.
Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts on our conversation by putting your comments below and visit thecallwithNancySabato.com to learn more about me and what we do here on the ministry. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share. Your support means so much to us.